section just before new business, item 9. So I guess it'd be just before item 9. Seconder, Councillor Korkalka. Any discussion? Councillor Howell?
I think that'll give us sufficient time to discuss the close.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Recommendation, please. Councillor Korkalka.
The Monday, February 3rd, 2020 regular council meeting agenda as amended be approved.
Good one. Seconder, Councillor Kirby. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes. January 20th, 2020 regular council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Majinski.
The January 2020 regular council, January 20th, 2020 regular council meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes, council? Staff? Thank you. Moving on to delegations and petitions. 6.1, Tumbler Ridge Museum Foundation. Zena, Colin, and Snyder to present to council a museum update highlighting achievements of the last year and plans and projects they are working on. Welcome. Yeah. I hear you. Hi there.
Hi. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us here once again. Perhaps a new face or two. It certainly is for me sitting here, since I haven't had a chance to come since you've all been elected. So we also reflect kind of some new faces and changes as well. And for anyone who has not yet met Zena, Colin, she is our Executive Director of the Museum Foundation. Is that the title?
General Manager.
Oh, sorry. I have a few societies we belong to, so this is Zena. Awesome. And also, we have Dr. Lawfield in the audience. We have our whole staff is here.
Yes,
we
I see that.
Lawfield, and we have Debbie, we have Zena. So we're all here.
Yeah.
And as well as the volunteers in the back. So with that, we know what you're here to hear, and it isn't me. So I'm going to turn at this point over to Zena, who is very well prepared to answer some of your questions and move forward with what 2020 is bringing us.
Thank you, Rose.
Okay, thank you for having us here. So to start, I just want to go through some of the highlights from 2019, which is basically essentially the last kind of 8 months that since I've started the museum. So it was a year of great change and great opportunity. It was a year filled with steep learning curves for our new employees, but a renewed vision and new leadership has quickly set the TRMF on an exciting path forward. Support from the District of Tumbler Ridge has allowed for these changes to happen, and the progress we've made in 2019 is important to the long-term viability of the organization, and it will provide educational opportunities and support economic development. So this year we actually had, or in 2019, we actually had our second highest visitor count on record. The highest year was 2015, and that was the year that the Geopark got its designation. So there was a lot of special events in town that year. So that year was the best, but this has been the second best. We had the expansion of our Wolverine River Trackside Tour with 2 new spur trails. An increase in trackway tour revenue compared to 2018 by 140%, and an increase in admissions revenue compared to 2018 by 53%. Now 2018 was a bit of an anomaly as far as that year goes, so I did actually look up comparisons to 2017 as well. The trackway tour, we were up 78% over 2017 and 10% in admissions over 2017. We're also celebrating a renewed partnership and collaboration with the Geopark, and we meet regularly to talk about opportunities and kind of co-promotions and that kind of thing. We have the launch of our new website in August. We have renewed collaborations with the Philip J. Currie Museum in Alberta. The continued expansion of our collection. We've had some exciting new discoveries that will require some further research and will lead to future publications. And a new partnership with the Symbiosis STEAM ecosystem through Science World. So for 2020, moving forward, we have a few things on the go for this year. So we're going to talk about strategic planning, policy development, fund development, the continuing partnership with the Geopark, tourism, programming, gallery update and research, historical designations and protections, and our provincial repository status, other partnerships, and volunteerism. So for museum planning, kind of actually right now, we're just starting the process. We'll be kind of starting in mid-February. We're kind of a 3-year strategic plan. So that includes our values, mission, and vision, prioritizing and organizing our work for the next 3 years. We have a lot of ideas. We just need help kind of really focusing and planning what that's going to look like. And then it will also help us develop guidelines for strategic decision making. We will be working with, or are working with Hatley Group. They are experts in museum management, governance, and sustainability. Policy development, we have struck a policy committee. We are reviewing all of our policies right now, writing policies. We are right in the thick of it. We are using best practices and standards, and again, it will help us develop the procedures and guidelines for decision making. Fund development, we are talking about operational and capital funding streams and sustainability. That involves government, corporate, private donations and support, grants, fundraising, and earned revenue, and how we can increase and diversify all those areas. And then working with the Geopark on joint projects, marketing, and of course, we're very, very early stages talking about amalgamation and what that could look like. Our boards are in discussion about that. So tourism. So I don't know if everybody has seen our map. This was our map from last year with all the pins from everybody who visited around the world. So we are committed to working with the district to achieve the district's and the Geopark's tourism goals, and that includes ensuring we fulfill the requirements of Geopark revalidation. So we have that list now, so we can start working that into our project plan for the next few years. I believe their revalidation's up in 2022. We will use the DTR tourism strategy to prioritize those tourism activities, exploring partnerships with other communities, sites, and museums, and expanding DTR and PRRD tourism opportunities through the development of the Northern Dinosaur Trail. That's a project that has been talked about for many years. I am now working with one of our summer students. She's doing marketing and graphic design, and she's actually taken on that project for us, and she started 2 weeks ago. And we're off running on that. Programming. So this is a big one. So as we diversify the scope of our research and exhibition material, it will help develop a more collective knowledge within the organization to develop STEAM programming, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So we're looking at doing programming for a variety of ages and interest groups, and we'll be examining the needs of several market groups and working towards programming that fulfills those needs using a variety of delivery techniques to accommodate multiple learning styles. And we are committed to providing in-class education as well as on-site options. We will be revamping our summer and drop-in options for children and youth, exploring adult and senior programs, and adding fun options like birthday parties, movie nights, and other special events. So some of this will be museum-driven, but a lot of these will actually require us partnering with other groups in town, mainly Geopark on that. But these activities are wholly dependent on the addition of another full-time person in a programs coordinator. right now with our 3 staff. We are, we're pretty tight for time, and being able to go out into the community. We always need somebody at the front desk. Dr. Lawfield is incredibly busy trying to learn and revamp the gallery and get caught up on that side of things and work on collections. And I'm kind of behind the scenes doing everything else. So that is a really key person. If we need to deliver on programming, that is the hire we need to make. A little bit about the gallery update. So this does not come out of our operating budget. This is a capital project, so we are looking for additional funding for that. And we have a few options we're looking at for grants and government support and some foundation support as well. We're looking at things. So it is a 4-year project at a projected budget of $250,000, but it really is going to focus on really strong visual elements. So it includes the addition of replicas of the organisms in our fossil record, commissioned artwork from renowned paleontological artists for use in the gallery, as well as marketing material, licensed photographs, diagrams, and maps, new display cabinets with better accessibility for children and wheelchair patrons. That's something that we're really missing right now. Our cabinets are too high and they're flat and they're just not accessible. And yeah, we are looking for capital grants for this project. So I just have a couple of samples here. So this is a coelacanth replica. So that is probably one of our, I think internally one of our favorite fossils. It really is quite, it's unique to here and it's a beautiful piece, but looking at it flat on a rock doesn't really give the same visual. This is a sample of artwork that was done of early marine life depicting the Burgess Shale, which is just outside of Field. And then just with maps, as the whole idea of the gallery update is a journey through time. So as you go through time, we'll also have maps of what the world looked like as continents shifted and broke apart and came together, and kind of tells the bigger picture. All of this is supported by research. So research is the fuel for everything else we do. It leads to new discoveries, new displays, new programs, new publications, and new opportunities. So the long-term goal of the TRMF is to become a hub of scientific research through developing partnerships with universities and other museums, and providing opportunities for students to study and work with our collections to achieve their academic goals. So instead of all the science just being done internally by our own researchers, we want to provide opportunity for other people to come in and do that research. So this is also where we would require another hire. We currently don't have a tech. Case in point is we have our beautifully encased hadrosaur in the back that has been back there for many years, that requires a technician to be able to go in and complete that project. We needed a technician to help create casts and molds for our own displays, but also for displays that we can then loan out to other museums. So that is another kind of a key piece that we're currently so the other kind of project I'm working on is our historical designations. So currently under the current fossil management framework, it doesn't allow for the same kind of protections that archaeological sites have. So we're working on an advocacy program to better protect those sites and being able to have protected access to them. And that kind of also falls into our provincial repository status. It's important that we work towards that so that way we can ensure that the fossil record from this area stays in Tumbler Ridge and doesn't leave the area. So partnerships and volunteerism. So I'm just starting the process of reviewing our current MOUs, and I'll be reaching out to all of our stakeholders to go through those, make sure they are up to date and still valid and current. We want to create new partnerships and looking for better ways to communicate with our stakeholders. And I actually have just over the last couple of weeks, Dr. Lawfield and Debbie have been putting together lists of projects where we can have volunteers come in and help, and we'll start developing a real volunteer program where we can have, we have our archives volunteers, and they're wonderful, but there's a lot of work that we can have other people do as well. So I'm working on that. And then I do want to touch a little bit on the kind of planned funding agreement, the proposal, and what that means for us as a museum, as an organization. So it will allow us to create short and long-term goals and plans, and it'll create operational security across different budgets. So right now, end of February will be end of Q1 for us. So moving forward, and people are asking me about our summer plans. What are you doing for camps? What are you doing for all these things? And I'm just kind of in that little bit of a catch-22 where I can't say for sure, because I don't know if I can have the people, I don't know if I have the programming. And so a long-term funding agreement that occurs over multiple years allows me to just plan ahead into the next season. So when I'm planning and doing my budgeting in August and September, I can plan through till June, July, August of the following year. And then that also creates job security as well. I think Dr. Lawfield and I, we both love this community. We enjoyed our time here. It's kind of a big decision for us to move from out of province up here, and it's always a little bit dicey, right? When you're coming up to the end of your current funding or year, and you're not really sure what's going to kind of come up next.
Mm-hmm.
That as well. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Zena.
Questions?
Any questions, Council? Councillor Kirkowka.
I don't have really questions, I'm gonna make some comments. I sit there as the liaison for the TRMF, and what a fresh breath of fresh air with the new general manager coming in that the previous board decided to hire. To me, I think this organization has gone leap and bounds in the last 9 months, 10 months. The amount of volunteers you have in the gallery as well, the archives. I don't think people realize how many hours, there's two ladies that sit in this gallery tonight, how many hours those two ladies have put in the archives. I'm gonna get it wrong, so I don't have this book my book that's home. I think it was 363 hours or something that was mentioned at a meeting in a year, put in by two ladies. And they have other people that come, or they offer other people to come in and help them, and I think hats off to those two ladies to spend that much time as volunteering in one organization. So hats off to the two ladies in that gallery. If I got the hours wrong, if I got the amount of hours, they might even be more, but if I'm wrong, please let me know later. But again, it's amazing where you guys have come. Some of the agreements you've signed in regards to having scientists on hand to help you out and stuff. I definitely will be supporting the museum. I think previously we had a vote of taxpayers, and I think this council here, I believe you'll have the support from this council. So hats off to your organization.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Howe? Sorry, Councillor Howe. Councillor Norbury and Councillor Howe. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So to echo Councillor Kelka's thoughts, when I heard you're coming in, there's a real question on my mind, and thank you for answering the questions that I posed to you through email, but my questions were, how can the museum meet the expectations of our community? Like when last council put out that survey question, it was very obvious that the residents supported the museum foundation. but the largest amount was in favor of a more family-friendly museum. Now, I'm maybe a little biased because I'm a programmer and I deliver a program, so I'm very glad to hear that your strategic plan development, you're going to be looking at more expanded programs, and I think, again, from a biased view, I believe that's one of the best ways to interact with the community. So, yeah, and it's the best. We really need to show the residents the value in the museum, and I think you're off to a great start, and I really look forward to what you're going to be doing. It seems with the stats, they are continuing on an upward trend, and good job, and I look forward to see what you guys have in the future.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hall?
First one is why the increase in funding over previous? It's $220,000 compared to $200,000 a year.
In my conversations with Mr. Wall, that was to kind of talk about or the inflation. Yeah, it's to address the inflation issue.
Go ahead.
And what are your guys' plans for, let's say there's a discovery at a windmill site or a mine, and they ask you guys to come out to validate it or look at it or figure it out. Do you have any intention of charging the mines or the windmill companies to look at those discoveries or deal with them? Previously it hasn't been done. So.
Yeah, that's not something that we've talked about yet.
Okay.
But I do know, we are collecting right now all the ideas and thoughts that we can bring to our strategic planning sessions. And then I'm hoping a lot of that kind of information will start to come out through that process.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Majinski.
I just had one quick question about the programs coordinator. In the past, has it been a full-time position, or was it done by summer students, or is it a certain allotted time just during the summer? Or?
Well, I can only speak to last year, because I actually don't really know before that. So last year it was just, we had a summer student. And it wasn't really, and I started the same day as the summer students started, so there wasn't a lot of planning ahead that went into it. It was very much a summer of, oh, let's do this weekend, and not a lot of forethought or planning, and it didn't go as well as I would have liked it to have gone, and it doesn't account for doing school program either, like programming throughout the year.
Go ahead.
And just to follow up on that, I know in the past people have been really adamant about having children's programming, and then you also mentioned in the presentation for adults as well. I think that's kind of very important, because I know there's some people that are they come here to see that, right? And it's usually adults, and then they bring the children. Is there anything for our community for, say, teens and adolescents, the ones that maybe kind of split the difference between the two?
Yeah. We will be looking at all age groups and addressing those needs, and a lot of it too. So through our strategic planning process, we are going to be reaching out for stakeholder engagement and feedback from the community, from the district, from PRRD, on how we can serve the community, what the community wants to see from us.
I think that's a good idea. Absolutely. I just have, I'm curious about, I definitely see there's a need for 2 extra staff people within the museum, the program coordinator and the prep tech. I'm just curious on your outlook on your overall budget. We're contemplating the funding agreement that's been negotiated, but obviously that funding agreement isn't going to completely fund the museum. With those 2 extra staff people, what kind of yearly budget would you be looking at?
So the annual budget I put together, so our total expenses, so with those 2 positions, would be about $435,000.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of in the area I was thinking of. I think it's just important that council understands the overall budget to see where we fall in it and what deficiencies moving forward as well. Thank you very much for coming in. Councillor Hell?
Yeah, just a quick question about the repository. That's been dangled in front of my face for 5 years now. That was a place that we thought that at some point we would be able to get provincial funding as a repository. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a realistic approach that we could get funding from the government for a repository in Tumbler Ridge?
I hope so. My plan is to go that route, and between that and doing the advocacy for the better protections, it's all kind of part and parcel. And it is about going after the government for funds.
Yeah, like I was left with the impression that through the government that once we got things sorted out with the museum and the funding between the DTR, the museum, and the PRRD, and we got on stable ground and got all of our ducks in a row up here, that the approach to Victoria would be a lot easier to navigate once we had done that.
Yeah.
Has that been expressed to you? Do you feel the same way?
Yes, yeah, I do feel the same way. Yeah, and that's what we're working towards right now that's why I chose a 3-year strategic plan as opposed to 5 years, is so that right now we can work on getting our ducks in a row and getting on a solid foundation.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming in. Very much appreciated, and thank you, Rose, for taking on the role.
So we just want to close in reminding people that we are approaching very much 2020 with the new attitude that kind of goes back to 2000. And if we were to go back to the beginning, sometimes you have to go back to the start to look at what did work, and that's what we are doing. And that is to include continued open communication. When we listen to some of the council concerns in the past, some of that kind of fell by the wayside perhaps, and it's not whose side doesn't matter. What matters is going forward, and we were talking at our last meeting about, quarterly luncheons. Come on up to our house to see what you're getting. It's hard to see that from down here, and it's hard for us to bring it because we're so excited. So we hope to see that kind of come into the quarterly plan. The other players at PRRD is also, we've been inviting out multiple occasions to come see what we and the Geopark together are doing for 2020 and tourism for the PC.
Absolutely. Great idea. Thank you. Okay, moving on to consent agenda 7.1. Recommendation, please. Councillor Nobre.
All items from the February 3rd, 2020 consent agenda be adopted for information.
Seconder. Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Council like to bring anything up for discussion? Councillor Gorkowka.
Yeah, I just need to talk about the Ministry of FLNRORD there in regards to the old for a service room.
7.2. Seconder. Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Gorkowka.
Yeah, so just on, I know you'd forwarded or sent an email out, and there's a response, and there's a response. The letter is very bottom. The remaining deactivation is currently scheduled to continue in the late summer of 2020. With plans of completing this project in the fall of 2020. So, I think it seemed like there was maybe some people unaware that's what was going to happen. I know the previous council reached out to other organizations to try and take on the liability so that these guys would leave the road in there. I mean, my understanding when they were saying here's a delegation that they would be willing to upgrade those bridges and all this if somebody else would take on the liability. That was discussion previous. I seen your letter and I just thought we should talk about it. We should discuss that. That's gonna cut off the back here.
Yep.
Right, so I know in regards, and of course it's further down, but for Caribou initiative. There was talk that if they're gonna shut down areas due to Caribou recovery, that possibly money coming in from whether it's from the BC government or Canada. Is this something that we can maybe ask, like I know you sit on that committee, I'm not sure when they're gonna decide on what areas are gonna cut off due to Caribou. Maybe this isn't one of the areas, it's gonna be somewhere else. Is this something that can be maybe headed off before they do it? in case that's where they're gonna put some funds to keep that area open for backcountry users.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I definitely understand your concern. I found out about the deactivation at the Christmas dinner table from my family, so believe me, I was pretty upset by it, and that's where the email came from. I made contact with the regional directors for FLNRORD last week in Prince George and expressed my concern with why there wasn't consultation before the work began. And the manager followed up with the manager in Dawson Creek and asked if there was consultation, and they said no. So they're chalking it up to a learning experience. But basically what I expressed to them was we still need access. At the moment, I am told that we don't have access. So I expressed our incredible concern with them that this work still needs to create access and not take it away. And I think everybody involved with the ministry understands that, and I'm not sure if it's been communicated to the contractors. So in this letter back to us from the ministry, they did mention that we all had ample time to decide if we wanted to take over the road or not, and both Community Forest and the district decided not to. But out of courtesy, I would have expected them to come to us and explain the work that was going to be done. So I'm going to still advocate for them to come and present before council this year to explain the work to be done. And in all of the meetings that I've sat in over the last 3 weeks, the question I have asked was the deactivation in regards to the Caribou Protection Plan. And the answer was no. This plan to deactivate the road has been in plans for the last 3 or 4 years. The reason for the deactivation was the bridges were decrepit. I talked to the ministry lady last week. She told me that when they went to take out a bridge, it actually collapsed while they were taking it out. So the timing was definitely critical for liability to get those bridges out. But I did explain access is very much a priority for the district. So looking forward to more communication in that regard. Any other comments? Okay, anything else council would like to discuss on the consent agenda? Okay, moving on to bylaws, 8.1. Councillor Kirby, do you want to step
I'd like
up?
to excuse myself with the thought of possibly opening an Airbnb myself.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Howell.
To put a recommendation on the floor that council does not proceed with any short-term rental bylaw amendments and does not allow short-term rentals in Tumbler Ridge.
Seconder. Councillor Krokowka, comments? Councillor Norbury.
I'm against the current recommendation. I believe that we should be supporting Airbnbs in our community. The results are mixed, but I think it is our job as a council to support new and growing business. We shouldn't be deciding what businesses should receive favor or shouldn't, but more allow businesses to grow in Tumbler. I think by disallowing this,
Go ahead.
by disallowing this opportunity, I think that we are stifling business in Tumbler Ridge. And Airbnb is in my opinion, is a new name for bed and breakfast, which has already been a part of our bylaws. So, yeah, I do not support the current recommendation.
Okay, Councillor Krokowka.
Yeah, and I'll support this, and the reason I'll support it is I've been reached out, or I've been in contact with 2 individual businesses in town that run hotels. They both have kitchenettes in them. I believe it's every room in one hotel has a kitchenette in them. And that to me was what the understanding was to be able to have people cook for themselves. Well, it's already happening. One hotel has yet to be at 50% coverage since October.
Say that again, sir.
They have not had 50% room rate, like 50% fill rate.
Okay.
Since November or October. So they're not even full either, and And the other one, he really didn't have a number to present on how many rooms they had filled from that. So to me, we have two businesses that are already here, pay taxes, and we're looking at, to me, taking business away from business owners already within our community. I'm not against having businesses in Tumbler Ridge. I'm against Airbnb. And the fact that if we have mines that open up, all of a sudden now we may not have houses for people to go into because people are doing Airbnbs at these houses. That is my other concern.
Okay. Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Member Chan. I am not in favor of the recommendation on the floor right now. I actually reached out to the 3 hotels, and one of them doesn't offer weekly or monthly rates. One offers only monthly, the other both weekly and monthly rates. That's what short-term rentals are for catering to weekenders up to a week, up to 31 days. So for me, I think it's a very beneficial thing for us to have these short-term rentals in our community. Going through all of the bylaws and the work that's been done through our staff, they've done an excellent job on going through everything piece by piece and showing that if there are going to be disruptive individuals in these rental units, they can be dealt with through the owner. So the business owner is going to be the one solely responsible. And if there is too many complaints, that business could technically be dissolved based on how the actions are dealt with. Also, I truly believe short-term rentals cater to either a family or larger groups, 4 or more. So if you're going to look at the cost comparative to a hotel or 1 room with 2 beds, sometimes personally, if I was coming to community with my family, I don't really want to be sleeping beside my mother, so I'd rather have to get another room, so that's going to increase the cost. So you're going to have more and more rooms being filled up, and sometimes that's not viable for a family. And there's lots of other instances. This isn't just for tourism. This could be for people that are displaced from their home for a short amount of time, for a week, whether it's a sale of a new home, they're transferring homes, there's a fire or a flood in their current home. So it's not just for tourism. Like, I'm a big advocate for tourism, and short-term rentals are obviously prominent in every tourism community all over BC, so, and they all provide them, so I don't see why we shouldn't be. And it's a service that we're going to provide, because a lot of these hotels, not to knock on them, but yes, they do have kitchenettes. Some do not provide breakfast early in the morning. And the idea is, if you're coming to our community, you're obviously going to be doing activities. Either it's going to be early morning skates, hockey, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. You want to be out of the door early. And there's a lot of places in town where you cannot provide for them at 5 in the morning when they want to be out on the road by 6. So for some people, they'd like to have the convenience of being in a home where they can get their meals ready, be out the door on a timely manner so they can explore. Also, another thing that I brought up that I thought was pertinent is industry people coming to our community as professionals for them to stay, because obviously they're going to be handing out resumes or even doing interviews with current employers here, but they also want to see the community, so they're not going to be here just for the weekend. Usually they want to see the sights and sounds, they want to live here for a short amount of time, and in a hotel it gets quite costly. So and it's obviously going to be for a family, so it's not going to be just 1 or 2 rooms. So a house is more viable for them to bring in and have their stuff there. So they might even bring bikes and have a secure lockup. So there's multiple reasons I really am adamant about short-term rentals. There are going to be inaccuracies with in and out transient people, but that's going to be just like a hotel and everywhere else. But the merits of it outweigh the deficiencies, I believe, in my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Howe.
I think a lot of the stuff that Councillor Brzezinski is saying is speculative. He's saying, you know, I think it'll be like this, and this is the way I assume it to be. And to me, that's not really hard facts of what we're talking about. And you went into great detail with a lot of stuff, and I'd be glad to discuss with you at a later date where I am on a lot of the stuff he said. But when you're talking about they can't have breakfast because they don't offer breakfast, well, what's the difference between a house that has a kitchenette or a kitchen in it, or the TRN that has a kitchenette in it? To me, anything that's going to go on with Airbnbs, I don't think we're going to be able to enforce it. I don't think that we're going to be able to literally go out and be able to do all the stuff that's required for an Airbnb with our bylaws. There are a ton of bylaws in Tumbler Ridge that are not being enforced because we have a different system here where we like to have complaint-driven bylaws. It is going to absolutely hurt existing hotels because that's your only other place where you can stay in town. That is a hard fact. That's a hard fact. We get much higher taxes from hotels than we do residential properties. They are a major contributor to our taxes in Tumbler Ridge. We also get added benefits from some of the hotels in Tumbler Ridge with the use of conference room. We've also had a few hotels struggle to pay taxes in recent years. 2 that were late on their taxes. 1 that had to come in and say, you guys are having this thing if we can't change the system or the structure of how we can sell our units, and went away from being hotels, right? Those are big issues. Those are $1 million issues that we're talking about. And we're talking about doing this Airbnb. There's 4 of them on the website. I checked it today. 1 of them is actually a hotel trying to compete, trying to offer something that they can get something out of it. For us to go in and explain to hotels, you've got to change your business strategy so that you don't attract, or so that you can attract those that are in Airbnb. That's their job to do. I am not there to run their business. They have to figure out how they need to, and if they don't offer week rates or day rates or whatever, that's their problem. They'll have to figure that out or lose those people. I just can't see, and I think it's completely opposite to what Councillor Norbury is saying about not supporting business. These aren't businesses in my mind. This is somebody who has a home that's looking to rent it out, to find any which way to make $1 off a house they have in Tumbler Ridge. That's the way I look at it. Supporting businesses are businesses that have business licenses in town, that support the business that are in town, support the mines, they take in the contractors, this and that. I have a short-term rental next door to my house, and it is terrible. I cannot stand the place. It is absolutely terrible. They come in with their mine trucks, they leave the dirt, sludge, oil, stuff all over the roads all the time. They don't know how to run the garbage cans, they don't know which day the garbage gets collected, they don't know any of the bylaws that associate with our community because they're very transient. Those types of people should be in hotels. That's my take on it, and I do not want to see Airbnbs at this time in Tumbler Ridge. Should things change and our hotels are filled up and they can't handle the capacity, then we can have the conversation at another time. But right now, where we're suffering in Tumbler Ridge, I don't see the benefit of Airbnbs.
Okay. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. So when I travel, I mean, I do my due diligence. I look at hotels, I look at Airbnb, and then I make an informed decision. And you know, Council Howe, you make a good point. This is with an Airbnb, the hotels have the opportunity to go on Airbnb. So it's an even playing field in that regard. And if we're talking about businesses, if a person owns a business license, they're a business. Right? And these Airbnb operators will need to have a business license to operate. You know, and enforcement, the Airbnb already has its own enforcement in place. You know, and one of the best enforcement systems is the rating system. You know, you get a poor rating, someone's moving on to the next one. I think that is important in today's, you know, Amazon F society. Everyone's looking at what star ratings we get. And when we're talking about business in the marketplace, competition is healthy in the business marketplace. I know that it's not something businesses want to hear, that somebody's opening up a similar business in my mind, but it makes those businesses work better. It makes them try harder. Talking with restaurant owners in our community, they said it made me bring a higher level of service to the community that set me above from everybody else. And I think that's important to highlight here, is that this is an opportunity for everybody. You know, the current hotels have an opportunity to get a new platform to invite people in, and it also makes them see what everyone else is doing and up the bar. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor Lucan. Councillor, how you say that you have an Airbnb beside you or a short-term rental beside you? How is it being controlled right now since there's no bylaws in place? See, if I was a business owner, I would adhere to those bylaws and the rules and the zoning that are in place so that I follow them, because if I don't, I'm no longer a business owner, I'm just an owner of a vacant house. So I know for a fact that there are people that want to start this business and they want to follow the rules. They're holding out and waiting until. Otherwise, they could just say right now, oh, I'm renting out my place. They have an ad online. Somebody asks them, oh, it's a friend of mine. How do you control that? How do you know? There's no deviation or being able to say, no, how do you know this person? Like, there's not going to be that continuity. So right now, if we have the bylaws in place, they're going to have a list of who was in there tallied so that, say there is a state of emergency, there could be a follow-up on it. So if it's in and out and you don't know where these people are coming from, where they're, how they booked, where they're from, there's no paper trail. With an Airbnb or a short-term rental, that's all going to have a paper trail to it. So if there is destruction, there is theft in town, they can relay the information of the vehicle, the license plate. That'll be attached to, just like a hotel. You have to write down your license plate if you're parking in a parking stall or whatever. Same thing here. So it is traceable. If you see a complaint going into the police station, run the plate. It could be that one, could not be, but at least there's some dialogue there. So I think there's a big benefit to having, because right now it could be anybody that could be running their business illegally, right? So this gives it a bit more credibility. So.
Yeah, I find it interesting that one of the hotels is operating an Airbnb within the hotel that we haven't approved yet. Councillor Hall.
And and how did that work out for them in Toronto, where they had the shootings there and they can't catch the people that did the shootings in Toronto in the Airbnbs? To me, again, we're adding it for 4 people that on Airbnb. Maybe there's more. Who cares? There could be a dozen out there. I don't know. But now we're adding all that staff time that we've already put into doing what we have, and then to have them have to go out and have the fire chief check out all this stuff and go through all these lists, and then have this complaint system and record system, and we're doing all of this for what? What benefit are we getting because we have a few more different places for people to stay in Tumbler Ridge? The people that pay the majority of the taxes, if you looked at how much hotels actually pay us in taxes, that's what I'm concerned about. We've already almost lost a hotel in Tumbler Ridge, right? Let that sink in for a second. The amount of taxes that we would get from that one place, if that had gone, or we had been, hey, you guys own the hotel now, deal with it. Right? Let that sink in. How much money is that as compared to what we're going to get out of Airbnbs? It may not be just financial, there may be some other monetary gain here, but to me, that's a very, very scary prospect, and I want to be seen as supporting those large businesses in town that have supported this community for years and years and years.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Couple of questions. I'm wondering what the demand has been like for Airbnbs in Tumbler Ridge. And I thought when we started this process, we were talking about putting a cap on it and having only so many allowed. I'm wondering if there are any answers to any of those.
I think in the report there was staff recommended not to put a cap on it, but Mr. Wall, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so the option to put a cap on it is there. It's in your alternative recommendations. We did a number of research into comparable communities, and in our conversations with them, they hadn't put a cap on it. They hadn't found any negative effects or any reasons to do so. With the $150 business license fee, I think that's going to do some of the regulating as well. It's not going to be somebody who just goes, well, I'm just going to give this a shot and we'll see how it goes. At $150, there's going to be some level of thought and planning put into it. But you could put a limit on it. One of the reasons we didn't move forward on just putting a limit on something we didn't see become a problem somewhere else is it creates a few more administrative processes on how you're going to do that, because a business license has come up for renewal every year. So are you going to go into a lottery system? Are you going to do a first come, first serve? If you do it that way, are you going to have, you know, a camp out the night before for people to get in the door first? So it's not something that, I'm not saying it can't be done and it can't be overcome, but given our communication with the other communities and the lack of problem that this had created, we didn't make that recommendation. The demand, listening to the conversation from around the table, I think council has a better feeling for the demand in the community than administration does, to be honest. We know that there's a few, what that number would come at the end of the day, I don't know. And one of the problems you always run into these things is it's great to hear, I'm gonna do it. Well, now it's time to do it. Get your $150, check with Northern Health to make sure all your stuff is in line. You know, a lot of people will fall off between those two, you know, desire and steps. There's a lot of people that will fall.
Okay, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. So to address one of the maybe putting words in your mouth, Councillor Howell, sounds like your main concern is that the health of our current hotels and concern of them going under. You know, I think that in itself is speculation, right? Like if we don't currently have Airbnbs, they're doing poorly, and they have been doing poorly the last few years. What is the cause of that? It's certainly not Airbnbs, because Airbnb we're currently not allowing. So, you know, it's what's the issue here? And you know, that's not. I still don't believe that it's up to us to fix that problem for them. Gee, lost where I was going with that.
Okay, Councillor Korkalka.
Yeah, we say we currently don't have them here, but I believe everybody's gonna, I just Googled it just now, but there's actually Airbnbs already on the site. We don't allow Airbnbs, but there is people in town already doing Airbnbs. So they're already out there, so, you know, I do have that concern, like I say. I mean, right now we only have one mine operational. My concern is when we get 2 more mines operational, and somebody that does decide to open up an Airbnb, maybe they're making more money with that, so why would they rent their house now? So now we're gonna be in a house shortage at a time crunch until we can get more residentials built. That's another concern of mine, and that's what's happening in other municipalities that are trying to get rid of Airbnb. And that's not just Vancouver, there's smaller ones that are trying to get rid of Airbnb because they're finding the same problem. So that's my concern, as well as that we have hotels that have the kitchenettes in it and has all that. And if people are concerned renting 2 hotel rooms side by side across from each other so they can be around friends or family, and I think when you go on holidays, I think there is an expense. I just can't, I'm not into supporting Airbnb. Just not.
Okay, Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the issue that Councillor Korkalka is referring to is high density areas, downtown Vancouver, or in the suburbs of Vancouver where prices are very high to begin with. Here, we currently have 92 homes on the market. So to say that we're going to have a shortage of rentals, I've never heard it where somebody came into town and said, I'm having a really hard time trying to find a rental unit. I don't believe that for a second. I think it comes down to the cost per week, per month. For somebody to have a short-term rental, it would be cheaper for them to have a home with multiple rooms in it for a family or 2 families in it than it is to get a whole bunch of hotel rooms for that, because there's only one provider that is providing week rates. And if you do the math on it, which I've done because I've gotten the rates from the hotels, if anybody was to go out and spend the amount of money they want to do it, they're going to start looking at short-term rentals. So why not? It's people aren't just here to come and waste money. They're coming here they're traveling a long ways to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the district has 2 properties that they have for people to come into the community so that they can search around. So wouldn't that be considered a short-term rental? They're not paying, the people that are coming into the community are not paying for it, but it's being utilized, so that's taking away from the businesses in town.
Okay, Councillor Korkalka.
So yeah, when I talk about being short for funding houses, it's when we had it was Western, or Wolverine Coal was still here. PRC was opened up and Quintet was looking at opening up. You couldn't find a house rental in it. Right now you can because we have one mine operation. What happens when Anglo starts up? What happens if HD comes on? That's what I talk about. When you talk about the 2 units that the district owns and uses for, one, I believe doctors and nurses have the access to use them when they first come to this community to keep the cost down, and sometimes it's intern doctor or a agency nurse. I think that's something that we have a working agreement with Northern Health, as healthcare is our #1 priority of this council. So that's why they're there, and I believe they're also there for when we have contractors in, so we don't have to pay them out an LOA. They get the hotel or the apartments over there to be used. I think that's why the district, previous councils decided to make that judgment and buy them, which I think good on them for buying. And I don't believe we rent them out as a short term.
Councilor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor. Both contractors and nurses make very good money. What about somebody that's new to the community, maybe has a red seal, electrician, plumber, welder, just getting into it, is curious about the community. They're not making big wages, and they have to fork out $750, whatever, upwards, for a week just to see if they like the community. Is that a risk everybody's, an individual is willing to make to come here? It's not just about tourism, it's for retaining and drawing people here to come to work. And I think that's something that has to be in the back of our minds as well. How can we have them here, even if they don't take the job? They're here for a week, they can experience and say, oh yeah, I like that place, but maybe the job wasn't for me, but maybe my buddy will, or whatever, right? So it's just another option that we should provide for our community.
So a lot of speculation on both sides, obviously. This is a new territory. I do believe that Airbnbs accommodate a different type of stay, for sure, and they're operating right now illegally. So I'm very curious on why we have allowed this to go forward so far, and now that all this work that staff has done, we are putting forward a motion to not allow them. Very curious on that one, but I'll call the motion, or call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated. Thank you. Okay, recommendation under 8.1, please. Councillor Norbury.
That council give the first reading to the business license amendment bylaw number 682, 2020.
Seconder, Councillor Majinski. Comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation 2, please. Councillor Majinski.
The council give a second reading to the business license amendment bylaw number 682, 2020.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. Comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Recommendation 2, please. Sorry, zoning amendment bylaw recommendation 1, please. Or did we do that one already? Sorry. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, we're on zoning.
Okay. Zoning amendment bylaw recommendation 1, please. Councillor Norbury.
That council give the first reading to the zoning amendment bylaw number 685, 2020.
Seconder, Councillor Majinski. Comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation 2, please. Councillor Majinski.
Council give a second reading to the zoning amendment bylaw number 685, 2020.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. Comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Fees and charges amendment bylaw recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
That council give the first reading to the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 683, 2020.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. Comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Recommendation 2, please. Councillor Lehman.
That council give second reading to the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 683, 2020.
Seconder, Councillor Majinski. Comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation 3, please. Councillor Majinski.
The council give third reading to the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 683, 2020.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. Comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Municipal Ticketing Information Amendment Bylaw. Recommendation 1, please. Councillor Lehman.
That council gives first reading to municipal ticketing and information amendment bylaw number 684, 2020.
Seconder, Councillor Majinski. Comments?
Yep.
Councillor Howe.
Yep, so, are we going to ensure that, each rental or each room that's available for rental is going to have a paved parking spot? Is that going to be ensured by staff that that happens?
I didn't read that. Councillor, or Mr. Wall, could you elaborate, please?
There is a requirement in the bylaw to stipulate how many parking spots are available, not necessarily parking spots, or, sorry, not necessarily paved parking spots.
Just parking.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Councillor Howe?
All required off-street parking, maneuverable aisles, access to highway and loading areas in all zones except the M1 zone shall be surfaced with a permanent surface of asphalt, concrete, or similar pavement or other hard surface such as interlocking pavement zones to provide a surface that is durable and dust-free and shall be graded and drained with properly disposed of all surface water. My concern is are these types of rentals going to have enough parking for every room that they rent? Not because they rent one room out, they need one parking spot. If they rent out 4 or 5 or 6 rooms, they need 6 parking stalls on their property. Can we do that? They cannot take up so much room on their grass with pavement that it's completely done. Like, has that been researched? Have we looked into that type of an issue?
Mm-hmm.
If you rent out 4 rooms, you've got to have 4 parking stalls, as well as the owner of the home has to have a parking stall,
Mm-hmm.
if they're in the spot, and like a bed and breakfast.
Right.
So that's 5.
Yes.
You can't cover your entire grass with concrete,
Mhm.
right? There has to be some left, or asphalt, or whatever the stipulations are.
Mhm.
But, you know, I see rentals in town that people park on the grass, and they rut it all up, and drive over top of district property, destroy district property. The manhole caps that cover our water things that are poking up through the ground, where these heavy trucks are parking on the grass. So are we going to ensure that we're gonna go around, make sure that every one of these people, before they are parked or rent out 4 places, are gonna pave their, or put asphalt in?
Mr. Wall, can you elaborate on the inspection in that sense, please?
So I'd have to, I need to see the area on where that's stipulated, what page are you reading for?
Sure, 123. Service 20-20.18. This had come to the surface of Tumbler Ridge before, where people were putting in gravel driveways. By our bylaw, you're not allowed to have a gravel driveway. You have to have pavement or asphalt. So, again, here's that can of worms, right?
Yep.
So now what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if a Airbnb has to have theirs all paved, so does the guy down the street that has a gravel driveway. So there's the can of worms.
For sure. Councillor Norbury, did you have a comment?
Yeah, so just trying to fully grasp Councillor Howe's concern. Are you concerned about an uneven playing field with people who don't have paved driveways?
Well, just the can of worms that this opens, right? Like, before you can allow an Airbnb to go in, if they have 6 rooms for rent in their home, they have to have off-street parking for 6 vehicles. So that means they have to have paved areas for 6 vehicles, which not too many driveways in Tumbler Ridge will accept 6 vehicles.
So are you aware of an Airbnb that is offering 6
No.
rooms?
No. I know of one that has 4.
Six-room house is kind of unique in the community.
Place next door to mine, they put all home rooms in the basement so they can put more people in there. So it's not an Airbnb, but that's not to say that other places haven't been done.
Yeah, but from what I've seen of those types of advertisements, they also have parking information within the advertisement too. So if the house is only capable of providing 2 parking stalls, that's what the information that they'll provide.
So they can only rent out 2 rooms in that home.
They could rent out as many, but they can only bring 2 vehicles
That's
to
not
this.
what the bylaw says. Though. The bylaw says if you rent out, every room that you rent out has to have a parking stall associated with it.
Right. Okay.
That's the way I read it.
Mr. Wall? I'll wait on that. Councillor Norbury?
Yeah, my apologies, Councillor Howe. Can you point out in the bylaw where it says that each individual room needs to have its own assigned parking space?
Yep, page 120, 1 per guest room. 1 per sleeping room.
Okay.
Page 120.
Parking requirements 1 per suite.
1 per guest room.
Councillor Norbury?
To alleviate those concerns, I make a motion that we remove from required off-street parking spaces the requirement of 1 parking stall per suite.
Seconder? Mr. Wall, did you have a comment?
Not yet.
Okay. Seconder? I'll second that. Comments? Councillor Howe?
It's an absolutely bad idea to make on the whim here so that you can pass your agenda here. That's a bad road to go down. So what does that do then? Now they park all over the road. Now they not required to have that on-site parking. These bylaws were put in place so that the residential streets aren't covered with vehicles. That's why it's there. And now you're just on a whim tonight, you're just gonna pull it out and let them park all over the roads. I think that's ridiculous.
Thank
Why
you.
I say
Thank you for your opinion, Councillor Howe.
Yeah.
Councillor Norbury?
I mean, if we're talking about an even playing field here, if a family has, a 4 vehicle family, we're not demanding that they have a parking spot for every individual that owns a car. I mean, people do park on the streets, and the issues of people parking on their lawns or on the street isn't specific to Airbnb only. I mean, perhaps my amendment is a little hasty, but I don't think we should be holding up this bylaw because we're having a slight issue with parking, which is not distinct to Airbnb only.
Okay. Councillor Kukalka?
So just on it, I know when I moved to Tunbridge and we bought a house, I had 2 children at home that had vehicles, and my wife had a vehicle each. We were required by the district of Tunbridge to do something about parking within our residential to get off the street. So I like just because I heard your comments, or we actually had to build 2 more parking stalls. I kept my youth at home that were old enough to drive. That was a requirement. Like, my kids could park out there for 24 hours or less. And move back and do this, but that was a requirement by the bylaw at the time. That was bylaws. So that's what we did. And, Councillor Howe threw it out there. I'll tell you right now, mine are not paved. We got a permit and put in pea gravel that was pounded in. I mean, I don't have any flooding issues or anything like that. And I mean, if this is what it is, I mean, as a councillor, I'm looking at paving my driveway if that's what's required by the district of Tunbridge's bylaws. So I actually had to build 2 more stalls for my family to be able to park off the street. And if we're willing to change a bylaw to have Airbnbs, I'm not sure. Not this time until we get some better direction being fixed out.
Okay. Councillor Norbury?
Yeah, fair enough. I apologize. I mean, it seems like the common practice in town indicates that this is not a bylaw. My inexperience with the bylaw is showing, so I apologize. We can defeat and continue on, but I'll leave my comments for the current one.
Okay. Mr. Wall?
Yeah, so, and I'm not entirely sure on your interpretation of Councillor Howe, but for each guest room for which you want to register in your short-term rental, you'll need to have 1 parking spot. That's not to say that if you are bringing in 6 guests, you need 6 parking spots. You may have 3 people coming into a guest room or something like that, people sharing, so you may have more than 1 person in there, but for each guest room, you need 1 parking spot. If you have 2 guest rooms, you'll have 2 parking spots. If you are limited, let's say your house has 5 rooms, and you are only able to provide 2 parking spots, you will be limited to 2 guest rooms within your Airbnb.
Okay. Councillor Howe?
So again, this is just getting the ball rolling, we're just getting started in Airbnbs, we're seeing how this is gonna work. Of one of the ones that's online, it has 6 rooms in it, right? 6 rooms, so that could be 6 adults with 6 cars. So do they have the ample parking on that site for 6 vehicles? That is a concern, that's why I wanna, go down this road, and I have had to make that comment to our bylaw. I've had to call and say there are vehicles all over the street, they cannot be here. So bylaw is able to go up and enforce that, whether it is Airbnb or not, they can go up and enforce it. So to me, this is one of the stipulations with being an Airbnb, so that you don't get a dwelling that has 8 units in it, or get a unit that has whatever, so that you stay clear of that. That's why these things are in place. If you wanna rent out 1 room in your house, yeah, you can pull that off, but to do this, I don't know.
Okay, Mr. Walsh, did you have another comment?
Just to say that if somebody's advertising 6 different guest rooms, they would need to provide 6 different parking spots, and should this bylaw be adopted, they would be in contravention of the business license.
Okay, Councillor Norbury.
And speaking to the motion that I put forward, I think my motion is again, it's not a motion. I do not support it now because this is a great way of regulation in itself, right? Potentially, you can only have 2 to 4 parking stalls depending on the size of the driveway.
Okay, call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated? Thank you. Where are we?
The only recommendation one. Ticketing.
Yes. Okay, any more comment on recommendation 1 under municipal ticketing information amendment bylaw? Councillor Majinski.
So that means if you have a short-term rental and all of the parking stalls are full on your driveway of potentially 2 vehicles, you're not allowed to park on the street.
Are you asking a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to park on the street then.
Mr. Wall?
Yeah, so let's just make sure we're clear on that. That's not what this bylaw does. This bylaw limits the number of guest rooms for which you're able to rent out based on the number of parking stalls you have. You may have more than 1 person going into a room, and they may bring more than 1 vehicle. I mean, we run into cases where someone may bring a motorhome with a car attached to it, with a trailer on the back, with another vehicle. Okay, so we allow overnight parking in the district of Tumbler Ridge so long as those vehicles are moved within 24 hours. And that would not change. So could you run into a scenario where you had more than, could you run into a scenario where a Airbnb has more vehicles than allotted off-street parking? I think it is likely that that will happen.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, call the question on recommendation 1. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Recommendation 2, please. Councillor Norbury.
That council give the second reading to the municipal ticketing information amendment bylaw number 684/2020.
Seconder. Councillor Majinski, comments? Councillor Kirkowka.
So again, I just want to get some more information here. How is that going to be enforced by bylaw? I understand I come in and apply for a business license, I want to rent out 2 rooms, I need to have at least 2 parking stalls.
That's correct.
Who is paying for the staff to go and make sure that when I want to rent out 4 rooms, I have enough room for 4 vehicles? Because that's what it now states in here. I have to have 4, if I'm going to rent out 4 rooms, I have to have a spot for 4 vehicles above the park on my land, not the district's property.
Correct.
Who's going to go and make sure that's before the business license is approved?
I would assume that would be part of the inspections, but Mr. Wall, could you elaborate, please?
So part of the application process.
Application process.
So if we were to have somebody, and I don't want to give the impression that we're going to double check this before it happens, but if we were to have somebody apply for a business license with that information, and we at a later date found out that information being correct, their business license would, they'd either pay a fine, business license be revoked, or they'd be told to come in compliance with our regulations.
So they're just going to fill it out and there'll be no background check before the license given? That they actually have 4 stalls? It'll be whether or not in compliance. That's my understanding from Mr. Wall.
Mr. Wall?
We are supplied a lot of information on our business license applications, and if we were to try and verify all the information provided to us, it would grind our business license applications to a halt.
But it'd be an ongoing monitoring thing by the bylaw enforcement officer.
It would be part of what we do. We've got a lot of bylaws. Per capita, we have a lower bylaw officer to population in a lot of other communities. So again, I don't want to give the impression that this is going to be priority number one in ensuring that there's enforcement of all of these sorts of things. It's going to be based on the same way we enforce the other bylaws. If there's an issue created, it's much more likely that it gets looked at. If there's nobody that complains about it, then there's a good chance it doesn't get looked at.
Yeah, but it will fall under the enforcement of the bylaw enforcement officer. Correct. Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. So if somebody applies for an Airbnb license, wouldn't they be required to say, okay, I have X number of parking spots, and therefore I'm only allowed to rent out this many rooms?
That's correct.
So if somebody wants to rent out 6 rooms and they have to have 6 spots, obviously they're not going to get a business license because they can't rent out 6 rooms
Because of the space.
because of the space.
That's correct.
So most of these Airbnbs are going to be limited to 1, maybe 2 at most
Because of
Unless they
parking.
wish-
because of parking.
Yeah, unless they wish to expand their driveways.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Krokowka.
I guess just to council, even unless they say they have 4 stalls and they're gonna do 4, but they actually have 2 stalls, and until neighbors start complaining about all these vehicles being on the roadway, nothing can be done. So if nobody complains, it'll be okay.
Councillor Lehman.
But thank you, Mayor, but if somebody does complain, they would have the potential to lose their business license and then be out all the work and money that they've already put into it. So that's a risk they're going to have to take.
Any other comments? Okay, call the question on recommendation 2 under municipal ticketing information amendment bylaw. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation 3, please. Councillor Majinski.
Also give a third reading to the municipal ticketing information amendment bylaw number 684, 2020.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. Comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to closed item 13.1.
Joanne's still awake back there.
Thank you.
Wake you up?
Okay, resolution to close meeting. Recommendation that the meeting is closed to the public in accordance with the Community Charter, Section 91, subsections G and E, as follows. G is litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality, and E is the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Seconder, Councillor Krokowka. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.